So if you missed all that, here we go again. Okay, I've just got this. I find with many people I meet today, and they tell me that they're doing everything right, exercising, drinking adequate water, etc., etc. So why? And Newton's third law of motion states that to every action there is always an opposite reaction. There is always a reason. So what I do is I say, tell me your symptoms, because sometimes often people are given labels for symptoms. Have you noticed? I'm not interested in labels. You know what I'm interested in? Your symptoms. So these are some of the symptoms. A little girl, she's getting her periods at 9 years of age. Usually a girl will develop breasts a year, or begin to, before she gets her periods. Something's wrong. When a young girl gets her periods at 9 years of age, it's almost like she's lost half her childhood. Normal is 16 to 18, and we hardly ever hear of that. In fact, if a young girl is 18 and she still hasn't got her period, she thinks there's something seriously wrong with her. We've forgotten what's normal. Another symptom of a female having a hormonal imbalance is not only early periods, but very heavy periods, very painful periods, tender breasts at period time. Another one can be headaches at period time, even migraines, premenstrual tension. Aren't you glad that is not normal? And I'm going to show you how that can be turned around today. Depression can be a symptom, thyroid problems, cysts in the breast, cysts on the ovaries, fibroids in the uterus, cervical cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, breast cancer, endometriosis, osteoporosis. These are some of the symptoms of a female having a hormonal imbalance. What about a man? What's some symptoms of a man having a hormonal imbalance? Low sperm count. How many couples are struggling to have children today? Low sperm count, inability to hold an erection is called penile dysfunction. The current figures in Australia are 50% of men over the age of 45 are struggling with this one. Why? It's a hormonal imbalance. Also with a man, it can be prostate problems. In fact, I remember 40 years ago, we didn't even know what the word prostate meant. It's almost a household name today. These things have crept up on us so slowly we almost think they're normal, but they are not normal. Did you know that 70 years ago there was something like 1,000 cases of endometriosis in the US? Today, 10 million. Yeah. So what we're going to look at is why these things are so. To understand why these things are so, we need to look at the hormones. And notice what our sex hormones are made from, cholesterol. If our cholesterol levels go under 150, we're going to have trouble making sex hormones. And if our cholesterol levels go under 150, we're going to struggle making vitamin D, because vitamin D is made from cholesterol. So what would be a good cholesterol level? Oh, anywhere between 200 and 300. In fact, I was talking to a lady who's a pathologist in Maryland last year. She said, she's in her 70s, she said, I'm retired now, but I used to do all the testing, all the blood testing on cholesterol levels. We considered a cholesterol level of 350 perfectly fine. Now, did everyone hear that? And the Framingham Heart Study, they were set up to prove that cholesterol causes heart disease. It's 40 years later and they still haven't proved it. But you know what they showed? People with high cholesterol levels don't get Alzheimer's. Would you like a moment's silence to digest that statement? No wonder the good doctors have called their books The Great Cholesterol Con, The Great Cholesterol Lie, The Great Cholesterol Deception, The Great Cholesterol Hoax, The Great Cholesterol Myth. And if you didn't catch all that, in my book Sustain Me, I've listed all of those books. I am not a doctor. I'm a journalist. I just gather other people's information, put it together and present it to you. There is your evidence. So cholesterol is vital for the making of our sex hormones. So that can be a contributing factor why people are struggling with hormones. From cholesterol, the body makes pregnenolone, and from pregnenolone, the body makes progesterone. Progesterone is a key hormone. In fact, such a key hormone is given the nickname mother. Now, the reason why progesterone is called mother hormone is because from progesterone, the daughters are made. Estrogen's a family. There's 3 sisters. We call it estrone, E1, estradiol, E2, and estriol, E3. They're the 3 sisters. From progesterone, the son is born, or the son is made, which is testosterone. And you know, this mother, this progesterone, she protects her son. Isn't that what mothers do? They have a protective role on their son. So this is why progesterone is given the nickname mother hormone, because such a key hormone. Also from progesterone, the adrenal hormones are made. They're your fight and flight hormones. Now I'm going to explain the monthly dance. Well, we call it a dance because it's like a dance. It's a monthly cycle. Dr. John Lee, he's probably the first doctor that blew the whistle on this hormone balance, this hormone imbalance. And he likens the monthly cycle to a dance, and different players come onto the stage at different times of the month. So let me introduce to you the star players in this monthly dance. Estrogen is one. Estrogen's going to be wearing a red outfit, and estrogen's role in the body is that of a cell proliferator. Cell proliferator means causes massive cell growth. Estrogen's not bad. I like an estrogen to fire and water, good slave, bad master. You see, it's estrogen that causes the skinny young girl to develop into a beautiful, shapely woman. But if estrogen levels remain high, that beautiful, shapely woman can get out of shape. The other player in this monthly dance is progesterone, mother hormone. And progesterone is going to be wearing a green dress. I'm going to see if this green is a little bit stronger than that one. One of estrogen's main role is that of happy hormone. So happy hormone means that that's one thing that progesterone causes. It's a booster of happy hormones. And there's a saying in Australia that most women don't like. It's called happy wife, happy life. But it's actually true. When the lady's happy in the home is a happy home. And there are many ladies who are struggling because they're lacking progesterone. And we'll have a look at why that is so as we go through this monthly cycle. The monthly cycle begins with day 1, and that's the day that a woman begins to menstruate. Day 1 of the monthly cycle, progesterone levels are low. So you could say progesterone's backstage. Day 1 of the monthly cycle, estrogen levels are low, but by day 14, estrogen is now the star player in this monthly dance. Now we're going to go over to the stage where the monthly dance is played out, which is the reproductive organs of a woman's body. This is the uterus, they're the fallopian tubes, they're the ovaries, that's the cervix, this is the birth canal. So at this time of the month, with the rise in estrogen as a cell proliferator is causing massive cell growth in the lining of the uterus. Because remember, in the first week, the blood nest came away. So in the second week, with the rise in estrogen, the blood nest once again develops. Estrogen is also causing massive cell growth in the ovaries. Estrogen is also causing a form of lubricant to be released in the birth canal. By day maybe 14, maybe day 15 with some women, a fully developed egg bursts forth from the ovaries. The little filaments on the end of the fallopian tube pull up the egg, and the egg moves up, up, up. In fact, that fallopian tube is ever moving like this, causing that egg to move up, up, up. The hole where the egg bursts forth develops a blister. And that blister is given the name corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is the name given to the little blister that develops once the egg goes. And corpus luteum plays a major role because corpus luteum is the main site of progesterone production in a woman's body. Can you see the importance of a woman ovulating every month? Because when she ovulates every month, corpus luteum's made. And when corpus luteum is made every month, that maintains mother. That maintains mother hormone in her correct position as mother, that is keeping all the other hormones in their correct place. And so with the development of corpus luteum, now we've got a rise in progesterone levels. About this time, estrogen is given the message, you can go backstage now. Because we've got our egg, we've got our blood nest, we've got our lubricant. So what happens with the rise in progesterone? There are a few changes that happen. One is a ripening effect on the lining of the uterus. So what progesterone does, puts the finishing touches on this blood nest. I liken progesterone to the plasterers and the painters, putting the finishing touches on. Progesterone also heightens a woman's mood at this time of the month as happy hormone, to the point of increasing a woman's sexual desire at this time of the month. But progesterone has another effect, and that is on the cervix. The cervix is the little gateway from the birth canal into the uterus. Let me magnify it for you. So it's like a soft little cushion with a hole in the middle. And that hole has a mucus plug. Let's look at it from sideways. From sideways, it's got two soft sides and the mucus plug. Now, with this rise in progesterone at this time of the month, the mucus plug goes and the sides come up a little tighter, and a special form of lubricant is released around the birth canal. And that lubricant is designed specifically to facilitate the entry of sperm up into the uterus. So the stage is set for the entry of man. Did you know that between 2 and 500 million sperm are released with one ejaculation? The sperm is the smallest cell in the human body, and sometimes up to half come straight back out. If the sperm meet this cervix, very difficult to gain entry, but because it's such a tiny, tiny cell, it can gain entry. But if the sperm meet this cervix, this lubricant literally grabs that sperm and shoots it up, and it's got a long journey, long way to go. And some of the sperm go down the wrong road and die and get taken away by the body. But some of the sperm go down the right road. Aha! They've found their prize, which is the egg. The covering of the egg has folds. And what the sperm has to do, it has to nudge its way into one of those folds. And eventually, when it gets in, all the other folds shut tight and chemicals are released to kill off any other sperm that might try and gain entry. Very occasionally, 2 sperm enter at the same time, and that's when the twins share the placenta. It would have to be at the same split second. So within a matter of days of the sperm entering into the egg, there's a division of the first 2 cells. And the DNA of a new human being is in there. That DNA never has been and never will be again. There's a lot of discussion about when life begins. When does life begin? Life actually begins within days of conception. So what happens to the hormones when a woman conceives? When a woman conceives, her progesterone levels soar 200%. Don't we often say when a woman's pregnant, she's just blossoming? Her happy hormone levels are way high. Estrogen is called E1. See, there are 3 different types of estrogen. Estradiol is called E2. Both of these estrogens have strong cell proliferator action, but estriol is called the delicate estrogen, and it's estriol levels that rise in pregnancy. Well, let's say there is no conception. Let's say the sperm and the egg did not connect. What happens to the hormones then? Then the progesterone levels drop. By day 26, progesterone levels have dropped, and by day 26, estrogen levels have dropped. And when both of these levels drop, the blood supply to the uterus is cut, and when the blood supply to the uterus is cut, the blood nest comes away, and we are once again at day 1 of the monthly cycle. That's what it should look like. Unfortunately today, there aren't many cycles that look like that. And we're going to have a look at why that would be so. But before we do, I want to comment on sperm for a moment. Sperm is an alien to a woman's body. And when sperm enters a woman's body, her immune system rises to attack. But when sperm goes through the prostate gland of a man, it takes on an immune suppressant property. So when woman's immune system rises to attack, the immune suppressant property of sperm knocks back her immune system and sperm survives. Otherwise, none of us would be here. But woman's body has memory. So every time her husband's sperm enters her, her immune system rises to attack and says, "Oh, it's all right, it's husband. We'll just stand back." But can you imagine how damaging it can be in a woman that has multiple partners, and how damaging it can be in the area of anal sex because of the immune suppressant property of sperm? So what throws the balance out? Because the curse causeless shall not come, says the proverb. Proverbs 26 verse 2. Number 1, the first disruptor, 1957. 1957, the first contraceptive pill was introduced to women. 1960s, it's called the sexual revolution. Women wanted to be able to have sex without falling pregnant. But women have paid a very high price for this so-called sexual freedom. Let me explain to you what the pill is. The pharmaceutical companies grow acres and acres of Mexican wild yam. Mexican wild yam contains a plant chemical called diosgenin. And in a laboratory, diosgenin can be converted to progesterone. It's called progesterone because it has an identical molecular structure to the progesterone that the woman's body makes. But the pharmaceutical company cannot patent that. They can only patent something they create, something new. So they add a few more atoms. This is what they did originally, and came up with a synthetic estrogen. And that was what was in the original pill. But within 10 years, it was starting to be seen this was causing a lot of problems. Endometriosis was developing. What's endometriosis? Too much estrogen, too much endometrium, that's the lining of the uterus, so it starts to wander all through the abdominal walls. And when the levels drop at day 26 and the blood nest comes away, these little pockets have got nowhere to go. And that causes a woman a lot of pain. Growths were starting to appear on the reproductive organs because this high estrogen as a cell proliferator was causing these growths. So they had to make a few changes. So they added a few more atoms in another area and they came up with a synthetic progesterone. Did that help? No, it hasn't helped. It hasn't helped at all because now it competes with our progesterone on the progesterone receptor sites on the cell. I want to show you exactly what the pill does. So when a woman is taking these synthetic hormones, those hormones are fed into the biochemical pathway that our body uses to make hormones, and it causes a disruption. And the body says, "What's happening? Must be pregnant." And because the body thinks it's pregnant, it doesn't release the egg. And because it doesn't release the egg, the woman doesn't fall pregnant. But if the egg's not released, what's not made, students? Corpus luteum's not made. So what's happening month after month on the pill? This is progesterone, this is estrogen. That's the levels it should be. Month after month on the pill, with its synthetic estrogen, estrogen levels are rising month after month on the pill. No ovulation, no corpus luteum. Where's progesterone? Down here. And what we have today, sadly too common, is a situation called estrogen dominance, progesterone deficiency. Good slave, bad master is now the master. Estrogen, with its cell proliferator action, causing cysts on the ovaries, causing growths in the uterus. There's the fibroids in the uterus. There's the polyps. There's the cysts on the cervix. There's the cysts in the breast. There's breast cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, cervical cancer. Elaine Hollingsworth, she's passed now, but she was a health writer in Australia. She made this statement. She said, the pill is the cause of it causes mass murder in millions of women. Ooh, strong statement. What have we got today? 1 in 4 women with breast cancer. I said to one woman, were you ever on the pill? She said, I wasn't going to take synthetic hormones. I said, well done. And this woman's in her 60s now. I said, did you have trouble with menopause? She said, I didn't even know I had it. I said, yeah, that's common with a woman who's never been on the pill. High estrogen opposes thyroid function. How many women in their 20s, teens were on the pill and they're now in their 50s, 60s and they've got thyroid problems? Let me tell you something else about this hormonal imbalance. Bones. We'll look at this tomorrow when we look at bones, but I'll touch on it now. Progesterone stimulates osteoblast cells. What's osteoblast? Osteo means bone, blast means new. Whereas estrogen, it stimulates osteoclast cells. The osteoclast takes away the old bone. And when the balance is right, the old bone's taken away, the new bone's replaced. But when you've got estrogen up here, too much bone is taken away. And when you've got progesterone down here, you haven't got new bone replacing it. What's that called? Osteoporosis. How many women were on the pill in their teens and their 20s, and they're now in their 50s, and they've been diagnosed with osteoporosis? And so they're given Fosamax. Do you know what Fosamax does? Causes the jaws to disintegrate. One lady said, can I stop Fosamax immediately? I said, I wouldn't take it one more day because of what it can do for you. Tomorrow, I'll show you how you can build new bones. So I broke my radius out of place, totally out of place. I'm thankful for the orthopaedic surgeon's skill that pulled it back into place. I'm thankful for the pain-killing medication so I didn't feel him pull it back into place. When they x-rayed it, he said, pretty good. That was enough for me. I went home, cut off half the plaster and put comfrey on it every day. It's a growth stimulant. At 4 weeks, they wanted to x-ray it again because they knew it wasn't perfect. I tell you what, I had several people looking at those x-rays. They'd never seen anything like it. A 70-year-old woman's bones healed after total displacement, healed in 4 weeks. They'd look at the x-ray, they'd look at me, they'd look back at the x-ray. Almost unheard of. I just sat there smiling. But they wanted to replaster it because it has to be plastered for 6 weeks. And as the male nurse is plastering it, he said, do you have osteoporosis? I said, no. He said, have you had a test? I said, no. He just started laughing. He said, How do I know I haven't got osteoporosis? Well, I was on a slippery rock that's as big as that table there, and I didn't realise the middle was a dip and it had had water and it had just dried, so it was totally slippery. I put my foot on it, my whole body went up, my whole body slammed down on my wrist on the rock. If I had osteoporosis, more than that would have broken. Anyway, that's my test. Tomorrow you'll see how you can strengthen your bones and how you can weaken bones. And I do everything I know to strengthen them. So now you can see why the number one disruptor of hormones is the contraceptive pill. How many are sick through ignorance? They're not even realising what it's doing to them. And so the woman is going through menopause now. She's having hot flushes. What's hot flushes? Hot flushes, estrogen causes capillary dilation, causes all the blood to rush to the skin. The husband knows it because all the blankets get thrown off the bed in the middle of the night and they get pulled back on again. So this one lady, she's the CEO of a big company. Every time she's in a chair meeting, sometimes she's chairing the meeting, suddenly a hot flush. She said it's so embarrassing. So what the doctor put her on was hormone replacement therapy. More synthetic hormones. She's happy the flushes have stopped. Why? Because now the body thinks it's pregnant. So instead of putting all its energies to the skin, it puts its energies into the breasts and uterus. 6 years later, a lump develops on her breast. She goes and has a test. She has breast cancer. The physician takes her off HRT immediately. Why? He knows. And you say to the physician, why do you do that? He said, she was suffering and it brought her relief. That's true. And not every woman will get breast cancer. That's true. But I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in playing Russian roulette with my life, with my health. And if you say to the woman, what would you prefer, breast cancer or hot flushes? What's the response? Give me the flushes, I'll get a black lace fan. I'll have several showers a day. But I'm going to show you today how you can get those flushes down by working with the body. The body's designed to heal, you just got to work with it. But I know some people never been on the pill, never been on HRT, but they have all the symptoms. What causes a chicken to be fully developed in 5 weeks? Growth stimulants. And I know in some areas they're not allowed to give growth stimulants anymore. So you know what they do? They genetically modify the chicken to produce more estrogen so it grows quicker. If it's in the chicken, it's in the egg. We had a cattle farmer's wife do our program. She said once a month they knock on our door pushing the growth stimulant. She said we don't, but most do. And if it's in the meat, it's in the product. So for those who choose to eat meat, I say it must be organic. It is just not safe today. Myself, I prefer to eat lentils. But there's more. Plastics. When I was a little girl of the 50s, 60s, all my clothes were cotton, except for the woolly jumper in the winter, or you call it a sweater. I went to school, my sandwiches were wrapped in greaseproof paper in a brown paper bag. Today it's all plastic. Now plastic contained 2 chemicals, one or the other. It contained nonylphenol and another one is bisphenol A. So my bottle's around here somewhere. There it is on the table. It's a plastic bottle, but it's BPA free. BPA free means bisphenol A free. You see, estrogen contains a phenyl ring, and that phenyl ring unlocks the door to get into the estrogen receptor site on the cell. So plastics containing nonylphenol or bisphenol A are estrogen mimickers. And the plastic fabrics are nylon, acrylic, polyester. Ladies, try and find a bra that's not nylon, acrylic or polyester. You can. You've got to search them out. One This one's it's an Australian brand, but I've seen it in shops here. It's called Booty. And Booty have a great line of sportswear, sports bras, underwear, and it's all made out of viscose, which is from bamboo. And I think you have a brand here called Pact. Is that right? I think Pact. Yep. That has a lot of cotton bras and underwear, and also Fruit of the Loom, I think it's called. Yep. So you've got to search it out. And the more ladies that buy these things, the more they will be available. Another one is herbicides, insecticides, pesticides. The worst is Roundup, and glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup. And I know in 2015, Sri Lanka banned Roundup, banned the glyphosate, because so many farmers, rice farmers, were getting endocrine cancers. So when the graphic designer was going through my book, he checks out everything I say and he finds the reference for it. And he said to me, Barbara, in 2019, Sri Lanka legalised Roundup again. Has it suddenly become safe? It's not safe at all. It's very dangerous. And it disrupts the hormones. Chemicals, we've got to get the chemicals out of our homes, out of our food, out of our clothes, out of our lives. A great thing to do if someone has a baby, a great present is give them diapers made out of starch, because you can get them now, and also buy them a stainless steel little baby's bottle with a rubber teat, and you call it a pacifier. You can get rubber ones, and a little wooden rattle, because we've got to start at that age. And maybe when the people open the present, it's not a usual present that they would get, would it? You know, baby showers, things like that. They get pretty dresses and all that sort of stuff. And they look at you and you say, I'm concerned about your baby's sexuality. They'll be interested. If we think we've got a problem today, you just wait, because have a look at the exposure to plastics that young children, babies have now. So one more question or one more issue before we look at how you can turn this around is soy. There's a question on soy, because soy contains natural estrogens. These are 3 cells, and these are 3 estrogen receptor sites. This one here is the xenoestrogen. Now, these estrogen mimickers, which is from plastics, herbicides, insecticides, chemicals, they all have strong cell proliferator action. Those xenoestrogens are 20,000 times stronger than plant. So how big are they? They're big. They're big. Sorry, I've said that wrong. Not plant, human estrogen. Xenoestrogens are 20,000 times stronger than human estrogen. How big is human estrogen? It just sits in the receptor site, perfectly like that. But human estrogen is 20,000 times stronger than plant. So how big's the plant? It's a tiny little slip that just slips into the receptor site like that. In fact, this xenoestrogen is 400,000 times stronger than the plant. We don't have to worry about the plant. We don't have to worry about the estrogen naturally occurring in soy. What we do have to be concerned about is these chemical estrogens we're exposed to, these estrogen mimickers. But let's go back to the plant for a minute. The plant estrogen, commonly found in soy, remember Psalm 104 verse 14, the Bible says God gave herbs for the service of man. They come to the receptor site and they knock. They say, excuse me, can I come in? And the cell says, no, we've got enough. And so this plant estrogen sits at the door, and that protects that cell against the xeno. So we don't need to fear the soy. The only soy we need to fear is the soybean grown in America today called Roundup Ready. Why is it called Roundup Ready? It's been genetically modified to resist Roundup. And one farmer told me this. He said 5 times before market, that soybean field is sprayed. He said all the weeds die and the soybean keeps growing. That's a bit scary, isn't it? And that soybean, that is a problem, not because of the natural estrogens, but because of the xenoestrogens. Problem number 1, it's been genetically modified. Problem number 2, it's been sprayed with Roundup in the majority of cases. And that's why we've served you a couple of times the scrambled tofu, a delicious way to have tofu. You see, tofu is a tasteless sponge. If it doesn't taste any good, it's your own fault. You haven't put enough flavour in. You put grated ginger, grated garlic, salt, lemon, herbs. You can make it very flavoursome. So how can we turn this around? Number 1, if we don't turn the tap off, we're still going to be mopping up in the other corner. Eliminate. Stop the pill. Stop HRT. Sex is 2-part. Contraception should be 2-part. The woman's role, I believe, is to know when she's ovulating. How does she know that? Her body will give her 3 signs. One sign is her temperature will change. It's as simple as taking her temperature every morning before she gets out of bed. She will find it'll do this, and then it'll drop and go up onto a higher plane. And that drop and up onto a higher plane will happen around day 14. It allows her to define it. Maybe it'll be 13, maybe it'll be day 14, maybe it'll be day 15. That's one sign. In Sustain Me, there's a QR code, and you can take a photo of that and it'll give you a chart. And you can download the chart, and every month make a chart. The second sign is that the vaginal lubricant will change. When estrogen is high, the lubricant is more white and thick, but when progesterone's high, the lubricant is clear and stringy and more profuse. So a lady just tests it every day and charts it. The third sign is that her cervix changes. She's got nothing to compare it with at first, but the lady needs to check her cervix every day. And as the days and the weeks and the months go by, she starts to notice the changes. And she will find that those 3 signs will come together, usually in the 3rd week of the month. But what the signs do, they allow her to define exactly when she's fertile, when she's not fertile. So she says to her husband about week 2, I'm safe. 2nd week, she says, I'm unsafe. 3rd week, I'm safe. And when she is unsafe, then her husband can either master the art of withdrawal or wear a condom. I read a paper one day in a magazine about Italian men, how they prided themselves in not getting their women pregnant by mastering the art of withdrawal. I thought, how nice that the man has taken control. Because I know in Australia, the woman goes on the pill, or the woman has her tubes tied, or the woman has an IUD. But I know some men have vasectomies, but I don't agree with that, because the body doesn't work well when you start cutting tubes. And they don't know how many women had tubes tied and end up having hysterectomies 20 years later. And they don't know how many men had vasectomies and 20 years later they got prostate problems. We shouldn't be cutting tubes in the body. So this is natural birth control. Eliminate the pill, eliminate HRT, get the synthetic hormones out of the body. Drugs never heal. They might mask symptoms, but they do not heal. Eliminate meat and its product. If you like meat and its products and you want to eat meat and its products, must be organic. Eliminate the plastics. I think it's impossible to totally eliminate plastic. It's handy stuff. But go for your BPA-free plastic, which is the hard plastics. Those hard plastics are BPA-free. They don't have that phenyl ring. You can also get little stainless steel bottles. I see a few stainless steel bottles. And I know last week it was a cement floor where we were, and someone dropped their stainless steel bottle. Clang! Oh, it's music to my ears. Someone's got a stainless steel bottle. Great presents for little kids are those little stainless steel drinking bottles. And go organic as much as possible. So please greatly reduce your plastic exposure. One of the worst is takeaway soup, leftover soup in a plastic takeaway container. And I know one place that we'll eat if we need to eat and we don't know what to eat, we'll go to Chipotle. And you know Chipotle, you can always get beans, you can always get salad, and they always serve it in a cardboard. I like that, cardboard. So be mindful of your exposure to these contaminants, which are little by little, like the dripping tap on a stone, disrupting the hormones. Number 2, our liver has the ability to detoxify us from excess estrogen, and it'll do it down one of 2 pathways. And there are certain foods, there are certain vitamins that'll stimulate the pathway that releases excess estrogen. One is the B vitamins, especially vitamin B6, B9 and B12. These 3 B vitamins stimulate the hydroxy-2 pathway, which is the pathway that eliminates excess estrogen. The cabbage family. The cabbage family contains something, a plant chemical called indoles, and indoles also stimulates the hydroxy-2 pathway. So it's as simple as having something from the cabbage family every day. It might be cabbage, it might be cauliflower, it might be broccoli, it might be Brussels sprouts, kale, bok choy, licorice. If you've got high blood pressure, forget the licorice, and flaxseed. It's a great idea to grind flaxseed every day and put it on your breakfast. It's high in omega-3, but it also contains lignans. And lignans are a plant chemical that also stimulates the hydroxy-2 pathway. So point number 1, turn the tap off. Point number 2, stimulate the liver to release excess estrogen. Number 3 is the wild yam cream. The wild yam cream, now I noticed that Red River, I think, have a couple of different types of wild yam cream. The wild yam cream contains the plant chemical called diosgenin. And diosgenin, when that cream containing diosgenin is applied to the skin, the fat cells take it up and it stimulates this pathway that our body uses to make progesterone. So what the yam cream does, it stimulates your body to make progesterone. And when that happens, you reinstate mother hormone. If estrogen levels are too high, bring it down. If they're too low, bring it up. Progesterone also for the men, when you boost progesterone, once again plays a protective role on testosterone. You don't need to know what your hormone levels are. If you have a blood test, it's not very accurate because all the hormones at any given time in your blood aren't all biologically active. There is no need to have tests. Just watch your body's symptoms. And if you're not sure if you have a hormonal imbalance and you start applying the cream, is that a problem? Well, can you have too much happy hormone? I'd like to suggest we don't have enough. There is no toxic dose of progesterone, but there's definitely a toxic dose of estrogen. So how do you apply the yam cream? It's usually about the size of a pea. I think the comfort cream has a pump action and you can just pump it on. and usually it has the directions on the jar. So you apply it every morning and every evening. So twice a day it's applied. One time to the inside of the arms, another time inside of thighs, another time the chest, another time the abdomen, maybe another time the face. So you alternate the sites of application. And that yam cream is applied for 3 weeks a month. For 3 weeks a month, twice a day, that yam cream is applied. And little by little by little, it'll restore balance. One lady'd been on the pill for 7 years, in her teen years, early 20s. And she started to get hot flushes when she went through menopause. So she went on the cream for 1 year. She stopped the cream and the hot flushes returned. So she went back on the cream for another 6 months. Then she stopped, no more flushes. And I think that was about 10 years ago, no more flushes. So she took the pill for 7 years, but it only took 18 months to restore proper balance. What we find is women are getting relief within often the first month or two, but it needs to be applied for a full year at least to get that full balance back again. How old can someone be to begin the yam cream? Well, I met a lady whose 9-year-old daughter had her periods, so I highly recommended being on the yam cream for at least a year. Now, the beauty is that young girl's hormones will be balanced so that for the rest of her life as a woman, she will have a balance in her hormones. I met a 92-year-old lady who was on the yam cream to boost her progesterone so that her osteoblast cells would boost to help her osteoporosis. So if you've been between 9 and 90, it will work for you. Anyone with thyroid problems, it's important to go on the wild yam cream to get that estrogen down, because remember, estrogen opposes thyroid function. I've met many people, especially ladies, who've conquered depression by implementing the Sustain Me principles, by implementing the basic laws of health and applying the yam cream. And what one lady said to me, within 6 months of applying the laws of health and applying the cream, she was able to reduce to the point after 9 months she had stopped her antidepressants. Isn't that good news? If someone's on antidepressants, I don't stop. Don't stop. First of all, we've got to implement these laws of health, but immediately start applying that yam cream. And we've seen many helped with this. The beauty of the yam cream, it contains that diosgenin, that plant chemical that works with the biochemical pathways in your body to restore balance. Our body runs according to precision balance. What about a man? A man is not cyclic like a woman, so a man, he just applies it twice a day without a break. In her book Hormone Heresy, Cheryl Selman, she has an illustration. She says, men are like the sun. They rise every morning, they conquer the day, they go down every night. Women are like the moon. Sometimes they're full, sometimes they're half, sometimes they're a little slither. Women are cyclic. And if a woman is no longer menstruating, she still needs to stop for 1 week every month. So what a lot of postmenopausal women will do is they'll stop for the first week of the month or they'll stop for the last week of the month, and that just helps them to remember. When we look at rewiring the brain on Friday and Saturday, we'll look at the brain, you will see that it takes 21 days to form a new habit. So it's a matter of putting the cream next to your toothpaste or putting it on your pillow, just putting it somewhere that you're going to remember until you get into the habit of it. So if a woman has fibroids in her uterus, she can apply the wild yam cream because it's the high estrogen that's feeding them She can also apply castor oil compresses. Castor oil penetrates deeper than any other oil, and little by little it can break down those fibroids. If someone has endometriosis, she needs to go onto the yam cream to get that estrogen down, because that's what's feeding the endometriosis. And then apply castor oil compresses, which will penetrate deep and break up those little pockets. One 25-year-old girl told me that her doctor said to her that when she goes through menopause, she won't have endometriosis anymore. What does that mean for a 25-year-old girl? Is that 25 more years of pain and suffering every month? So she was so excited to come to our retreat and learn that she could conquer it naturally. Because what the doctor will do is he'll get a diathermy needle and he'll burn out all those little pockets. Has that helped? No, if you don't find the cause, they're all just going to grow back again. And the operation to get rid of the fibroids, if you don't stop the cause, they're just going to grow again. I love God's surgery because it's gentle. Takes a little bit longer, but it's gentle. But in case of sickness, the first thing to do is ascertain the cause. When I was in Ireland, I had a young woman come up to me. She was about 35. She said to me, 2 years ago, I gave birth to my second child. She said, I've had daily migraines since the birth of my child. Now that told me immediately there's a hormone factor. So I said to her, if I were you, I would start that yam cream straight away. And when we were in Ireland, there was a yam cream made in Ireland. And the next day she said to me, when I got home, the migraine was starting, so I applied the yam cream. She said within half an hour, the headache went down. She said the next morning when I woke up, I could feel the migraine rising again, so I applied the yam cream and it didn't develop. 2 weeks later, I'm in another area in Ireland, and this lady was there. She said, I've just travelled 2 hours to tell you that it's been 2 weeks and I have not had a migraine. It's not the only cause of a migraine, but I knew it was a hormone factor with this lady because that's when it started, with the birth of her second child. She worked that out for herself, yes? Is yam cream safe for pregnant women? That's a very good question. What progesterone does is it binds the molecules of the fetus to the lining of the uterus and prevents miscarriage. Because what hormone rises in pregnancy? Progesterone. In fact, my daughter, she used the yam cream through her whole pregnancy. And how many ladies have had miscarriages? And it's an indication they don't have enough progesterone. And we're getting young women having this because their mother was on the pill for 4 or 5 years before the mother gave birth. And so the man or woman child are born with a hormonal imbalance. It's not the mother's fault. She didn't know. No one told her. Many are sick through ignorance, not realising the threads that are coming together to cause these things. In her book, Hormone Heresy, Cheryl Selman, she has a page where she shows all the effects of estrogen and all the effects of progesterone. They're almost opposite. And in his book, What Your Doctor May Not Tell You About Menopause, Dr. John Lee, he has the same thing in his book, a list of all the effects of estrogen, all the effects of progesterone. Dr. Sandra Cabot, she is just an Australian doctor. She's written a book, Don't Let Hormones Ruin Your Life. She says that estrogen is like the fertiliser on the grass, whereas progesterone is like the lawnmower that mows it down. Again, estrogen is not bad. Like carbohydrates aren't bad. It's only when they're overdone and refined. Estrogen's not bad. It's just when it gets up into those high amounts. And you can see what's causing it is all of these synthetic things that have come in. The growth stimulants, the contraceptive pill, chemicals, herbicides, insecticides, plastics, coming through in many areas. So we've got a woman who was on the pill 7 years before she gave birth to her baby. And now she's 55, she's going through menopause, she's got hot flushes. She's got weight gain. It's almost impossible to lose weight if estrogen's high because it's a cell proliferator. She's miserable because where's her happy hormone? Down here. See, that's the cause of premenstrual tension. Not enough progesterone. So this menopausal woman has no desire for sex. And when she has sex, it's incredibly painful. There's no lubricant. The cells that line her birth canal are tender. She is of all women most miserable. And her husband's secretary's looking better to him all the time. She is of all women most miserable. So she goes to the doctor for help. So he puts her on HRT. That stops the flushes. But that's all. Doesn't do anything else. And then he offers her antidepressants. She's hesitant to go on that because the end result of that isn't good. What will help her? Implementing those laws of health. It is well known, and in the book Sugar Blues, he shows sugar just causes boosts in estrogen, as the caffeine also does. And yet how many reach for the chocolate when they're having premenstrual tension? But there's just a quick feel good. After that, there's no feel good. It's actually total deception. So implementing those laws of health, going on the yam cream will boost progesterone, get estrogen down. That will help with weight loss. It also will help with libido. It's also going to boost the mood. That is true. So in many ways it is helping women. But what about the fact that sex is very painful? Well, something else is coming to help women, and it's called Yoni stones. What are Yoni stones? Yoni stones were developed in the Chinese dynasty, and it is reported that the empress was using them to be sexually toned for the emperor. But women are finding help with them now. It's 3 stones, and this is the size of the largest stone, and this is the size of the middle size stone, and this is the size of the smallest stone. They're made out of nephrite jade. They're like a marble, and they have 2 holes, and these 2 holes enable a lady to put dental floss in for easy extraction. She begins with the largest stone, and she inserts it into her birth canal until it touches the cervix. And she leaves it there for 1 hour a day, week 1, 2 hours a day, week 2, 3 hours a day, week 3, 4 hours a day, week 4, 5 hours a day, week 5. And then she can wear it for 5 hours a day for 6 months. By then her pelvic girdle is strong. Her pelvic girdle is working hard to hold that stone in place. And because her muscles in her pelvic girdle are working, it increases blood supply to the area. And when the blood supply to the area increases, then the glands that feed the lubricant revive. The cells that line the birth canal are getting nourishment from the blood, and they're not so tender. We are finding women getting help in many ways. And one is prolapse. So what's a prolapse? Prolapse is when the uterus drops right down to the neck, or the opening of the uterus, of the birth canal. Very, very uncomfortable. I've had 2 women attend our program who had prolapse. They went to the doctor. They sewed it up with mesh. Both times it did not work. Then the woman had the severe discomfort of the mesh and the prolapse until finally they were taken in and just the uterus was cut out. My daughter, when she had her last baby, I think Saffron's about 14 now, so 14 years ago, she had a home birth, and the midwife that attended her told her this story. The midwife was in her 50s. She said she had a prolapse. She went to the doctor. The doctor said, I can stitch that up with mesh. So she Googled mesh, and she did not like the look of some of the problems that the mesh has caused. So she Googled prolapse, and she discovered Yoni stones. So she ordered the Yoni stones and she began to wear the Yoni stone. And after 3 months she went back to the doctor. He said, I do not understand this, but you no longer have a prolapse. You see, all the Yoni stones did was strengthen her pelvic girdle, which is what is holding her internal organs together. It's just a device that causes the pelvic girdle to hold the stone so it gets stronger. So after 6 months, the lady can go over to the middle-sized stone because her pelvic girdle is now strong enough to hold the middle-sized one. One lady told me that when she'd finished the large stone, her 35-year-old daughter says, Mum, can I have a go of the large stone now? She'd had a difficult birth and she was having incontinence, meaning every time she coughed, every time she laughed, a little bit of urine had come out. And she said after 3 months of wearing the stone, she could cough, she could laugh, no urine came out. It's just a muscular system. And that's what these Yoni stones are doing. They're helping so many women with incontinence, women with prolapses. But it's also helping women to enjoy being intimate with their husbands again. In fact, one couple came to me in their early 60s. They said, we're a little bit embarrassed, but we want to tell you. And the man said, this cream just puts lead in my pencil. He said, I'm not performing like I was when I was 20, but he said, I'm better than I was. And the lady nodded and she said, and sex is no longer painful for me. She said, I'm on the yam cream and I'm also wearing the Yoni stone. She said, we're a little bit embarrassed to tell you, but she said, we wanted to tell you, thank you. I think it's a pity that some couples are even not being intimate anymore, even in their late 50s, early 60s. And it's a beautiful intimacy that I believe God meant for couples to enjoy into their latter years. But the yam cream and the Yoni stones are helping remedy those problems. That is the good news. So when a woman takes the Yoni stone out, she just washes it in soap and water. Sometimes she'll get a little box with a velvet lining and put it there, or sometimes little velvet bags. But women are finding that they're very helpful. I'm just so glad that God has given us these simple remedies that when we start using them, we can bring the body back into balance and remedy some even more serious things like breast cancer, prostate cancer, uterine cancer, and cervical cancer, in conjunction with what I explained the other days in my book, Self-Heal by Design. I'd like to open the floor now to questions. And what we're going to do is repeat the question, or you might have a microphone. Thank you.